The secret betrayal that broke an empire. The fall of the Abbasid Golden Age in the year 1258. The skies above Baghdad darkened with smoke, ash, and silence. A city once called the jewel of the world was reduced to rubble in a matter of days. Rivers of ink and blood flowed side by side as libraries burned and scholars were slaughtered. But this was not just an invasion. It was not just war. It was the death of a civilization. From the 8th to the 12th century, Baghdad was not just the political capital of the Muslim world, it was the intellectual center of humanity. And hidden deep within the ashes was a betrayal so devastating, it shattered the soul of the Islamic world forever. This is not just the story of the Mongol conquest. This is the forgotten truth behind the fall of the Abbasid Kingdom. The once unified Islamic world splintered into sects and rival dynasties. Caliphs, once humble leaders of the faithful, grew decadent, detached, and vulnerable. A story not of foreign invaders alone but of betrayal from within. At the height of its power, the Abbasid Caliphate was a beacon of knowledge, art, and science. Imagine a city where mathematicians debated Greek philosophy over tea, where astronomers mapped the stars, while poets wrote verses that still echo in our hearts. Some even welcomed Hulag's forces, hoping to rise in power once the Caliphate fell. The Fatimid remnants in Egypt stayed silent. Turkish emirs withheld troops. He trusted the wrong voices. The Shia-Sunni divide, which had grown into a gaping wound, paralyzed collective resistance. The House of Wisdom Beto-Hikmah stood at the heart of it all. They believed that the Mongols could be reasoned with, that peace could be bought. The Tigris River ran black from the Inca books tossed into the water, and red from the blood of scholars, children, and civilians. The House of Wisdom's entries of accumulated knowledge was erased. A library, unlike any other, containing centuries of accumulated knowledge, translated from Sanskrit, Persian, Greek, and Latin. Cities fell like dominoes. Bukhara, Samarkand, Herat, all destroyed. Hulag's mission was clear: conquer the Muslim world and reach the Mediterranean. And most tragically, their people were divided. But power, like time, corrodes when guarded poorly. As the empire aged, cracks began to form not just in walls, but in values. By the 13th century, the Abbasids were Abbasid in name only. Their armies were weak. Their treasury was drained. The Mongols believed that royal blood should not touch the earth, a belief as poetic as it was horrifying. The governors who once served the people now served themselves. And it was in this division that the seeds of betrayal were sown. The Mongols, under Hulagu Khan, a grandson of Genghis Khan, had been sweeping across Asia like a divine storm, and they were lost, not just to fire and sword but to pride, division, and betrayal. Baghdad stood in his path. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. As the Mongols approached, instead of uniting the Islamic states, local rulers did nothing. And inside Baghdad, whispers of betrayal grew louder. Some of the caliph's own advisors, fearing for their wealth and privilege, urged submission. So, when Hulagu sent an ultimatum to Caliph al-Mustasim, surrender or perish, the caliph hesitated. He delayed. He ignored the scale of the threat, and Hulagu took that hesitation as weakness. In January of 1258, the Mongols encircled Baghdad. What followed was not a siege, it was a massacre. Baghdad has risen again, but the Abbasid Caliphate never returned. The scholars of the House of Wisdom are gone. Their works, lost. Their questions. He was wrapped in a carpet and trampled to death by horses, unanswered. For 13 days, the city bled. Over 1 million people were slaughtered. And then, the final blow. Caliph al-Mustasim was captured. Or Arabs. Or Asia. With his death, the Abbasid Caliphate died too, not just politically, but spiritually. But let us not be naive. The Mongols were not the only reason for this catastrophe. The decay was internal. The caliphate rotted from the inside, long before it fell from the outside. What once was a civilization founded on knowledge, humility, and justice had become one of comfort, corruption, and complacency. And betrayal came not just from soldiers or traitors, it came from the abandonment of principle. The scholars who had once advised rulers with wisdom were replaced by flesh. And when the moment of truth came, the foundations crumbled because there were no longer any men of courage left to defend them. This is why this story matters today. We often believe civilizations fall when attacked, but more often, they fall because they forget why they were built in the first place. Baghdad's libraries were not just rooms filled with scrolls. They were sanctuaries of thought. They were the collective memory of humanity. And so, we ask, what is betrayal? Is it the hand that opens the gate to the enemy? Or is it the mind that abandons truth for comfort? The heart that chooses silence when it should speak? The society that forgets justice in the name of power? History has many enemies. But the most dangerous one lives within. Centuries have passed. And their truth? Bear it? But perhaps we can still listen if we choose to hear the lessons. Because this is not just the story of Muslims. This is the story of humanity. Of what we build when we believe, and what we lose when we betray that belief. The rise of the Abbasids teaches us the power of unity, knowledge, and vision. Their fall teaches us the cost of arrogance, division, and forgetting why we exist. What if the Abbasids had stood together? What if the Caliph had listened to truth instead of fear? What if the knowledge preserved in Baghdad had survived just a few more centuries? Would the Renaissance have come sooner? Would the world have changed faster? Or would we still be bearing truth beneath the ashes of forgotten empires? What if we've been taught only half the truth?